First of all, this looks like a 1.5 golden section rectangle. It's the dimensions I'm most familiar with because it's a 35mm full frame, which I work in all the time. So I'm going to divide the length by the height and see if I'm close, and I am. Here's how you would make it manually. It's called a 1.5 because it's based off a square and a half, not a root rectangle. So I'm going to drop one of my pre-made PNGs on top of this, fit it in, and see if anything works. And right away I have the two most dominant diagonals being defined. But how can there be balance when there's so much momentum in one direction? And that's because it's not just one direction, these are repeating diagonals. So you can take both of these and use them in the opposite direction as well, and by doing that within the frame of the painting, there's a little bit more momentum in that direction. And that's how you create balance. This type of zigzag pattern in the dominant diagonals is a perfect setup for the reverse curve. And it's about repetition, so once you've established that, you're going to keep on repeating that on smaller scales. The more you look for that here, the more you're going to find it. You could keep going and going. Do you see it in this hoof in both directions? Do you see it in this hat? A very simple, common technique, but what it's based on is a little more complex. And that is a symphony of circles. And symphony is a good term here because you can think of all these different elements of design as instruments in an orchestra. Let's look at the circle section, large to small. There's a lot of repeating similar sizes here. And that's how you end up with this, which is what these are derived from. And one other thing. He's using multiple techniques as elements of visual design here, and I just named a few. There's a lot more. But he's also doing that in terms of the grid. So if you break down the golden section further, you're going to find some major points are actually missing. And that's because he's using the 1.5 golden section rectangle with the rebated square, or the rectangle's inner squares. I used to do this all the time myself. It's very common for old school paintings to have both. And it works really well with the 1.5 here because now we have a symphony of squares as well.